Morning, everyone. Hope you all had a good weekend, blessed weekend. Hope you didn't get rained out too hard. Or I know the heat's pretty unbearable still, but hopefully people made it through the weekend okay. If you traveled, you got to your destination to and from and whatnot, and just like I said, made it through the weekend okay. but yeah, I'm gonna call this one damage control. But before I get into the gist of that, a couple of things. Um, I mentioned previously that I was specifically watching today, and I'll also throw the 23rd out there um, because I mentioned that to some friends, privately or whatever. It's just like, I think the 23rd could be a significant day. I don't know exactly why, but I did mention the 18th as well publicly, and I'm going to tell you why. Um, I just thought that after this summit, whatever, however it turned out, which seemed to be kind of like much ado about nothing. I mean, really? I mean, it's just, I mean, it just, nothing was resolved. Nothing, there was no conclusion to a matter or anything like that. Just a waste of time and money, it kind of seemed like. I mean, I wasn't there, obviously, and other people have their opinions and beliefs and thoughts on it or whatever, but from what I could tell, from what I heard, from what I was listening, pay attention to, and whatnot, reading or what have you about it, it just seemed like kind of a big waste, So they could have handled it over the phone or whatever. But now we have the 18th and supposedly a big meeting, I don't know, that might even be happening now, I don't know, later today. And I just thought, if they're going to pull something, if something's going to go down, some type of event, occurrence, a foxtrot, or what have you, or something to deflect, distract people, to don't look here, look over there, kind of thing. I thought they might do it today. I don't know for a fact, just kind of a thought that I had, that is a possibility. So time will tell. We'll see. But like I said, I had mentioned to some friends previously. It's like, yeah, I'm watching the 23rd, and specifically because like I've mentioned before, I believe that for a lot of the things that are planned, events that may be planned, or uh, you know, for things to come, um, on specific dates or whatever. I believe that this is actually the 6th month, according to the calendar, that the people that would plan nefarious activities and whatnot, the global elitists and whatnot, would do things. That this is actually the 6th month, and since they, like I said, they, in their religion, their belief system, the occultic activities they engage in or whatever, it would be a 623, and then they do things bass backwards and upside down and as above, so below, and all that jazz. So you take the 6, you turn it into a 9, boom, 923. People say, that's crazy. Yeah, maybe. But then there was that weird thing that Hank Pogue from God's Soldiers Ministry posted real quick, and I was like, I didn't know anything about this till he posted it. But we've got like a dark moon, or they're calling it a black moon or whatever, or a dark moon coming up on the 22nd and 23rd. I was like, wow, that's really interesting. And of course, just because this is just where my mind goes, I'm thinking, Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. Or the Transformers movie. They made like 10 of them or whatever. But the Transformers, there was a Transformers movie. I don't know if it was the third one in the series or what it was. I can't remember exactly. But it was called The Dark of the Moon. And I'm just like, interesting. So I was like, okay, well, that's on the 22nd, 23rd. That's what, this Friday, I think it is? Something like that. It's Friday, Saturday, something like that. So I'm just like, okay, something to watch for, something to pay attention to. Don't know, be able to see it, notice it, or whatnot. I guess if there's a really clear sky, you know, it would be kind of interesting to see a dark moon. I mean, it's like, ominous. Very ominous. So I was just like, okay, well, I guess we'll see what this week brings. Could be kind of significant. I guess we'll just have to pay attention and see what's going on. Because on top of all that, you still got Aaron out there, right? And I was just watching Weatherman Plus, Mark's forecasts on that, and what he was saying. I'm like, yeah. I hope people aren't ignoring this and thinking, it's a nothing burger. It's not a big deal. This thing is massive. It is huge, and it started out like a 5, and then it went down to a 3, and now it's intensifying again up to a 4. And this thing, man, could you imagine if it hit land? Oh my gosh! Look at the radar in this thing. Look at the Doppler or whatever. Just watch Mark's video or what have you. This thing is monstrous. And I'm thinking, wow. So apparently, he mentioned Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, is already under evacuation procedure. Mandatory evacuation. I was talking to my wife about it yesterday. I said, yeah. I just was wondering. I said, I doubt it'll happen, but I was just wondering that if it comes closer to land, and it doesn't look like it will, but if it did happen to come close to land, I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if they would lock down Camp Lejeune. Probably not. Because Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, Jacksonville, North Carolina, it's like a city within itself. That Marine Corps base is huge. It is humongous. So I was like, probably not. But then you also have Cherry Point, North Carolina, Havelock, North Carolina, and you have New River Air Station. And I was like, they might, but probably not. I was just curious. It'll be interesting to see where this thing goes. If it comes closer onto land at all, or if it kind of stays more out into the sea. But I tell you what, if you live on the coastlines or know people that do, I don't think I'd ignore this. I don't know about, battening down the hatches and evacuating or whatever. I guess it depends on where you live. If you're like on the Outer Banks of North Carolina, yeah, I would say probably evacuate, batten down the hatches if you're not going to. Maybe, it doesn't sound like it's going to be too devastating. He said like 20 to 30 mile an hour sustained winds, and I guess waves could get up to like 10 to 15 feet high. And then it's supposed to kind of skirt the northeast, and so people might be dodging a major bullet here, but then who knows? Who knows? It's still out there. It could be steered close to the land or stay out there. I would just be prepared and be ready to possibly evacuate depending upon where you live, or at least batten down the hatches if you plan to, stay. I would just have a plan. Better safe than sorry, And how many times have areas been flooded and hit unexpectedly with just major rain and just storms, and it's unexpected. It doesn't have to be a major hurricane or tropical storm or whatever. Things just get flooded now, constantly, all the time. Just like things just burn now, constantly, all the time. It's just like burning and flooding and quakes and shakes and everything, man. It's just, you just never know. So anyway, I don't think I would underestimate this thing. It is monstrous, and we really don't know what the effects are going to be until it comes closer to the mainland, or at least skirts by it. So I don't know. I'd pay attention. I guess Wednesday, Thursday is when the main impacts are going to happen. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't think I would ignore it. A lot of people are just like, that's nothing. It'll stay out and see. It's big, but it's not going to affect us. I don't know. I don't think I'd be taking that chance if I lived on the coastlines or, on the coast. But hey, whatever. To each their own. So anyway, then the other thing is, getting back to, pulling some junk, pulling some stuff or whatever. I guess this happened before the summit, from what I understand, but I guess we're sending the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit, like 4,000 Marines and sailors, to Venezuela. Or at least the area around Venezuela, to fight off the drug cartels. Kind of reminds me of the war on drugs, during the Reagan years. Even though I was very young at that time, I still remember it and hearing about it and whatnot. And, what was it? Nancy Reagan's Say No to Drugs campaign and all that jazz. I don't know. It just kind of reminds me of that. But anyway, yeah, we're going to fight off the drug cartels, use the Marines and the Navy to fight off the drug cartels. And This is what came to me about that, because I don't know how far this is going to go. You know, they say Latin America, Central America, South America. I don't know. I don't know how far they're going to go into this. But this is what came to me about that. First, I thought it was probably going to be Mexico, and it probably will be like a border war kind of thing, like we've been dealing with and continue to deal with, and may intensify. But I guess they're focusing on Venezuela now, and maybe, you know, possibly trying to remove Maduro or whatever. It's going to get interesting. It's going to get interesting and possibly very violent. But anyway, this is what came to me. With Dimitri Duduman, years and years ago, gave his testimony about, you know, the being visited by the angel when he comes to America, and the angel tells him about what's going to happen to America someday, and how this is Sodom and Gomorrah and so forth, all the way from California to Florida and all the way up to New York and whatnot. Um, the other thing that's mentioned, you know, or talked about in his testimony is, you know, the internal revolution, and, you know, what would happen and so forth, and specific countries, you know, that would attack us. And a few of the countries he mentioned was Cuba and Mexico, and he mentioned Nicaragua and Central America. I'm like, and he said there were two other countries he couldn't remember. I'm just curious. I'm thinking, I wonder if one of them is Venezuela. I don't know. Just a thought. But he mentioned Nicaragua and Central America, Cuba and Mexico. Everybody's going to join in on the fun when it comes to taking down, you know, the good old US of A eventually, according to what Dimitri Duduman said. So I was just like, okay, this is interesting. This is an interesting, how do I say it? I guess you could say foreshadowing, for lack of a better term. I don't know. So it'll be very interesting to see what comes of this. I'm definitely going to be paying attention to this. The 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit, no joke. You know, 4,000 Marine sailors. Okay. You get, like I told people before, when the Marines hit the streets, now I'm paying attention. Well, when the Marines hit another country, you know, or they decide to invade, whether it's Mexico or Venezuela or some other country, I'm paying attention. You know, like I said, nothing against the National Guard, but when the Marines go in, now you have my attention. Marines hit the streets, now I'm paying attention. Now I'm like, okay, now I'm definitely going to be very cognizant and aware and vigilant of what's going down. That's just my personal opinion and experiences. Uh, Working with, being stationed, assigned with Marines on Marine Corps bases, I know the mentality, I know the thinking, I know the mission mindset. I'm paying attention now. So now they do have my attention. The 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit, the MEU, the MEU. Yep, I'm very familiar with it. Yep, you have my attention now. So, getting to the damage control aspect of this, you know, it's like battle stations, general quarters kind of thing, right? I mean, I'm reminded of a few things because that's all I'm seeing now is damage control. It's just like lies and deflection and distractions and people defending themselves and getting very defensive and getting offended very easily, and it's all damage control because they know the ship is sinking. They know it's going down. You know, now it might take a long time for it to still go down, but it's taking on water, and it's damage control. And you know what? It kind of inspired this is I was watching not so much Drew Bloom, but more Alabama Woodsman, and I don't always watch him because I don't always agree with how he presents things and how he, you know, addresses things. Honestly, I mean, it depends on the subject matter, and it depends on, you know, what he's talking about. And like I said, there have been times where, in my opinion, you know, people have been exposed or attacked that I didn't think really deserved to be, in my opinion. So that kind of turns me off on certain things. For the most part, like 90 plus percent, I think is pretty much spot on. It's right on. But once in a while, it's just like, really? You're attacking them? You're exposing them? I'm like, I don't know about this one. That's just my opinion, like I said. So I don't always pay attention and listen to a lot of this. But this one was very interesting. And he was cool about, he was smart enough and pretty cool to put the links of the stories that he was talking about, the actual news stories that he was talking about, in the description. And I looked them up and I shared them. I was familiar with it, but it had been quite a while. But I reshared them, these news stories, because all the exposure, like Ben Fairclough said and other people have said, for I don't know how long, it's all coming out now. It's like the rats are trying to escape the sinking ship. It's all out there now. It's damage control. It kind of reminds me, years ago, watching the original Star Trek series, when they would go to yellow alert, where it didn't mean they were actually going to be attacked, but there was a threat in the area and they weren't exactly sure. So they would go to yellow alert, and then from yellow alert, when the attack was imminent, it was red alert, and either at yellow alert or red alert, I couldn't remember. I think it was red alert. I can't remember exactly. It's been a long time since I watched Star Trek. But anyway, then you would hear this roop, 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 roop noise, right? If anybody's ever seen the old Star Trek episodes, you know what I'm talking about, right? Yellow alert. And then when the attack is imminent, where it's like it's no longer a threat, but now they're about to go to battle stations and they're about to go to war, it's red alert, right? That's how I look at all of this, because that's what these people are doing. It's damage control. Church International, Warrior, Alabama, Robin Bullock's church, and you can look at the reports themselves, the news reports of the elderly lady. This was a while back, but yet, but it's still relevant. That gets on a bus from California, goes all the way to Warrior, Alabama, because according to the website or according to the YouTube channel or whatever, if you have a kindred spirit, we welcome you here. Well, she gets there and they didn't exactly bring out the welcome wagon, they didn't exactly roll out the red carpet. Matter of fact, they didn't have anything to do with this lady. So the local news gets a hold of the story. And they're like, yeah, this elderly lady gets on a bus, from California and goes all the way across country, thinking that she's going to be welcomed at Church International in Warrior, Alabama, and they have nothing to do with her. Nobody's there to help her. Nobody's there to assist her. They don't have anything. So when the news gets a hold of the story, now it's damage control, and they're still talking about it because, people like Drew Bloom and others have gone and they've bullhorned the place and everything else. Dog the Bounty Hunter's been there. It's quite entertaining, actually, because it's like, and then there were stories before where this Church International, which is a huge mega church in an area of Warrior, Alabama, which I guess isn't very far from Birmingham, tries to buy up all the property in the area and buy people out of their businesses and, and this and that. And I'm thinking, this is supposed to be a church? What the heck are these people doing, right? And so if you watch the Alabama Woodsman's, exposure on this from yesterday, they have all this stuff going on inside the church, where, you have the female pastors up there, the daughter, and then the wife and everything. All they do, it seems, is damage control. They don't want to preach the word. They don't want to, bring people to Jesus. They just want to make excuses for whatever it is their so-called ministry is doing, and and deflect and distract and detract and lie, basically, and say this didn't happen when it really did, and and just damage control. And it's everywhere. It's in the regime, the dumpster fire regime. It's everywhere. It's nothing but damage control. That's what we're dealing with in this nation now, because everything's being exposed. It's all coming out into the light. The light is being shown on the cockroaches, and the cockroaches are scattering everywhere. And it's damage control. And that's all it is, because they know that the jig is up, but they're not going to give it up, because it's like there's still too many people that are deceived and support the stuff they shouldn't support, and they still buy into the lies and the deception and the stupidity, and just there's still too many people out there that are deceived. Some people are starting to get a clue. They're starting to understand. They're starting to figure some things out. They're starting to use that gray matter up there. They're starting to think, well, wait a minute, this is the way I was raised, and my mom and daddy taught me better than this, and way back when I had a brain, that I actually used, you didn't have to, when somebody peed on my leg and told me that it was raining, I didn't actually believe them, but so some people are actually starting to get a clue. They're starting to wake up. Whether it's too late or not, I don't really know. Not my call, but for some people it might be. For other people, it's just like, hey, they're starting to wake up. They're starting to get it. You've been bamboozled. You've been hoodwinked. You've been, like I posted before, Michael Snyder's article, it's not MAGA. It's not even MAHA. It's MAPA. MAPA, Make America Poor Again. Read Michael Snyder's latest article. It's unreal how poor people are in this nation, and how poor they continue to be, and how the prices of everything has gone up. Like vegetables have gone up. They said 40% in a month. Well, actually, it was 38.9. Pretty darn close, though. But people can't afford to eat. They can't afford to live. They can't afford to buy groceries. They can't afford to do anything. This must be part of the MAGA agenda, right? No, it's MAPA. MAPA, whatever. Not NAPA, but MAPA. Make America Poor Again, because that's exactly what is happening. That's exactly what's happening. Read Michael Snyder's article. Don't take my word for it. I shared it to the Substack. I think I even shared it to the Post. Or, just look it up yourself. Most people should know who Michael Snyder is by now if you listen to me or subscribe to him, for free. You can be a paid subscriber or not, whatever, your choice. But the bottom line is, whether paid or not, he still puts out some really, really good articles most of the time for free, and tells people, this is what's going on, man. I mean, people can't afford to eat. They can't afford to live. They can't afford to pay their bills. They can't afford to do anything. And prices keep going up, up, up. And somehow there's still people out there that support the dumpster fire regime, everything that they're doing. It's like, man, I'm just going to say it. This is going to be insulting, but how dumb do you have to be to continue to support something and someone that wants to screw you over? I don't get it. That just blows me away. It's like, when do people wake up? When do they finally get it? I don't get it, man. It's just like, how many times you have to be screwed over and lied to before you say, hey, you're a liar. Hey, you're screwing me over. Hey, you're a Judas goat. I mean, how many times? How many times before people finally get it and say, hey, wait a minute. This isn't what I signed up for. This isn't what I voted for, if my vote even counted, which probably didn't, but this isn't what I believe was going to happen. This is not what we were sold. This is not what we were told. What else does it take? I don't know. Anyway, just my thoughts on that. But it's all about damage control now. That's all it is. And watch it continue. More lies, more deflection, more distractions, more detractions, more diversions. And when it gets so desperate to where they can't do anything more, watch for the foxtrot. Watch for battles, for skirmishes, for wars, for whatever it takes to when people finally wake up and get smart enough to say, hey, wait a minute. We're being lied to. It's like, oh, okay. Yep, they finally got it. All right, time for the false flag. Time to bring everybody together so we can have patriotism and just history may not always repeat, but it definitely rhymes. And so we'll, time for something to happen to bring everybody together, and so we can all become one once again. And it's just like, yep, and people will fall for it all over again. Because that's just how dumb people are now. So, I don't know. I don't know how else to say it. But in the meanwhile, hey, damage control. Pay attention to Hurricane Aaron, whatever. Uh, Pay attention to what's going on with the Marines and the sailors, the 22nd Marine Expeditionary Unit, and whatever else they might deploy out there, and whatever country that they're talking about, invading, occupying, whatever, because we don't have enough problems here, No, we got to go invade other areas and occupy other areas, because, we're so awesome and we're so great that we can walk and chew gum at the same time and handle all these domestic issues and problems here while we go invade and occupy other countries. No, 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 we can't. No, we cannot walk and chew gum at the same time. No, we can't. We got enough issues here in his own country we need to be dealing with ourselves rather than worrying about what everybody else is doing everywhere else. Other people might disagree with that, but we've got a lot of problems in our own country. We've got shootings 3, 4 times, 5, whatever times a day now. It's insane how much violence and how many shootings there have been. I can't even keep track. Like I said, it's 3, 4, even maybe 5 times a day. If you go, that's insane. That's not happening. Really? Pay attention. Yes, it is. Pay attention to local news all throughout the country. Subscribe to things, local news channels, or whatever else. JLR Investigates. I don't remember the other dude's name, that does live streams on it, but people are constantly live streaming, constantly paying attention to all the shootings happening all around the nation, in all the cities, all the towns, everywhere, all the time. It's happening. It's an epidemic out there. So we got enough problems in our own country, so we don't need to be worrying about what's happening elsewhere. But that's not what we're gonna do. That's not what we're gonna do. So pay attention. Pay attention to what's going on out there, and just watch the damage control happen. It's sad and entertaining at the same time because it's just like, man, really? It's like, man, oh my gosh, just please stop insulting my intelligence. I can't take it anymore. It's like, I am not an idiot, but we're treated like we're idiots, and people seem to be okay with that. They're like, oh, okay, insult me some more, treat me like I'm stupid some more, I'm good with it. Not me. I don't like being treated like an idiot. I don't like being treated like I'm stupid, like I don't have a brain. It's just like, man, like I said, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. Yeah, come on. People need to wise up, and they need to wise up quick. So, anyway, I guess we'll see what happens today and tomorrow, the next day, whatever. Definitely paying attention to today and the 22nd, 23rd time frame. That's just me personally. People look what you want to look at, but that's just me. That's what I'm looking at. I'm kind of curious about those kind of things. So, all right, y'all have a good week. Take care. I'm sure I'll talk to you again, but just wanted to throw that out there for damage control. Just watch more of it. It's going to happen constantly. Just watch them when they get called on the carpet, and people start asking the important questions and the intelligent questions. Watch them lie. Watch them scurry like cockroaches, like the light being shined on cockroaches. Rats, trying to escape a sinking ship. Just watch it. Like I said, it's both sad, really, really sad, but somewhat entertaining too, because it's like, man, wow, grab your popcorn, man. Get your 3D glasses on. The movie's about to begin. All right, y'all take care. Have a good one. Bye.